The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to the April Human Resources webinar. I am Willis Young, HRIS Specialist. If you are joining us for the first time, the purpose of the webinars are to keep schools and departments informed about human resources activities and allow for questions. Webinars will take place live on the first Friday of each month with a repeat of the following Monday. As a reminder, since January, the Monday webinar has changed to 3:30 p.m. Please note this will be the only webinar conducted for the month of April due to spring break and the upcoming holiday. As always, we will record the webinars for on-demand viewing as well. Additional resources are available on HR webinars page on the CMS intranet. Today's agenda is as follows. I myself will give an update on the MyApp system. Jan Richardson will give an update on benefits for late hires. Ellen Dillard will give an update on MyTalent. Amy Sullivan will give an update on candidate selection strategies and spring career fair. And Michelle John-Jumeau will give an update on the non-renewal process. And Tony Smith will round out with an update on BTSP, licensure, and mentoring. And all audio for participants will remain on mute. If you have any questions, please type it in the questions box on the right side of your screen in the GoToWebinar tool. We have subject matter experts here who will be monitoring the questions. So please don't be shy about asking questions. We will try to answer questions during the webinar. But if we get a number of them, we will answer them offline or at the end of the webinar. So welcome to our April 2015 HR webinar. We hope you find this helpful and convenient. So first up, I will give a brief update on the MyApp system and just a few changes that have taken place recently. If you are a user of the system, please note one change that we really want to put emphasis on is the update to the look and view of the system. But most importantly, if you're using a browser to access the system, then you should use either Chrome or Firefox as the browser. Internet Explorer has a few limitations with our system within CMS, but Chrome or Firefox are the best uses of the system. And so as you can see on the screen, we have the old view with the implant of the new look of the system. In the old setup, we had tab folders at the very top, and you clicked on whatever was relevant to your area. And on the left side of the page, it had the basic links that could take you to sub-pages. Now, with the new look of the system, we have the same links across the top of the page, but now we have the subfolders or sub-pages below those. And as you can see, they're indicated in red in the middle of your screen with the rectangle there. So all of those are available within the screen. And, of course, the color has changed just a little bit from what we knew as our CMS red, but now it has more of a gray, black, and white feel to it with blue hyperlinks. Okay, if you click a link within the page, you can now access an applicant's information or name by actually clicking on the name itself, and that will take you to sub-pages. If you still would like to view an entire document or the entire application, we still have the preview links that are located on the left side of the page, which shows the application in its entirety. But the links themselves actually give you a look and feel where you can actually drill to certain pages within the application. And on this screen, if you notice on the left side of the page, those links are located there that you can actually drill to certain pages within the application. This is primarily used by the HR staff, but also by our hiring managers, principals, directors, executive directors that have access. So this is part of the new look and feel. And just once again, we just want to reiterate the fact that you need to use either Chrome or Firefox as your browser for your best experience. Like I said, this is a brief update, but if you have any questions, we will take those at this time.
There are no questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you. And next up, we will have Jan Richardson, who will give us information concerning the benefits for employees hired after April 1 concept.
Good morning. We want to make you aware of a change in the benefits that late hires will be offered starting April 1. As you are probably aware, in prior years, employees hired April 1 or later in less than 12-month positions have not been eligible for benefits. With the Affordable Care Act, however, the Act mandates that any employee hired with the expectation of working 30 or more hours per week must be offered health insurance, regardless of the term of employment. So as a result of this, individuals that are hired in end-of-year positions as full-time employees working 30 or more hours starting April 1 and having an anticipated end date of June whatever date will be eligible for the bronze plan but will not be eligible for any other benefits. So we will send information to these folks as their hires are processed. Of course, if you have an employee that is being hired into a vacant position between April and June and the expectation is that they will continue and return next July or August depending upon the school year, then those folks would be eligible for full benefits. So on the next slide, we just wanted to remind you again of the employee cost and that the employees who elect the bronze coverage are billed directly through the third party that our state health plan is working with. So that's a quick update on the benefit coverage for late hires in April through June of this year. Are there any questions?
There are no questions at this time.
Thank you, Jan, for the updates. Next up, we have Ellen Dillard, who will give us information on the My Talent and Evaluations updates.
Good morning. We will cover this morning an update to exempt and non-exempt evaluations, a new step that has been added to corrective action forms and performance counseling letters, a completion step, recently resolved issues in My Talent, minimum performance expectations and summative ratings, resignations prior to non-renewal notification, changes to locking activities, the observation scoring summary, psychologist observation reminders, evaluation requirements for late hires, and, as always, evaluation due date reminders. So evaluations for exempt employees, and when we say exempt employees, we are referring to salaried, non-instructional employees, are coming soon. They are currently being tested in a test environment in My Talent, and we hope to have those ready very soon. Supervisors will be notified once those are available in My Talent. And as a reminder, non-exempt evaluations, those are for hourly employees, are already in My Talent and they're ready for use. We encourage departments with large numbers of non-exempt employees to get started on those early. Professional development plans are optional for non-exempt employees this year. And as a reminder, the rating scale has changed for both of these groups for 2014-15, and employees should be made aware. The new rating scale is posted on the Talent Management intranet site in Documents and Resources. And this is a view of what that looks like. There is a new completion step for corrective action forms and performance counseling letters in My Talent. The purpose of the completion step is so that the My Talent system can tell when a corrective action form or PCL is finished. So in that, when I say finished, I mean including all checkpoint meetings and outcomes of the plan. So the completion step should be completed once all checkpoint meetings have been documented and the supervisor determines that there are no further activities needed to close out a CAF or a PCL. It should be noted that there isn't a deadline for completing a CAF or a PCL, but until you complete this step, we systematically won't know when this when the form or the plan is finished. It should be noted that the employee can view the completion step, but they cannot add comments. This is what the completion step looks like. You'll notice that the step is at the very bottom of the steps in the corrective action form, and it just says corrective action form and then the number and then completion. That's where you will click to activate this step. Then the supervisor clicks edit. They answer 2 questions, yes or no, in the drop-down box, and then they can add comments. Those comments are optional, and then they will save that information, and then lastly the supervisor will sign to verify that the plan is finished. We do have some recently resolved issues in My Talent that we want to bring to your attention. We had some folks who were having trouble with the end-of-year review for PDPs. The issue was that there was a required step in the end-of-year PDP that shouldn't have been a required step. That has now been resolved, and evaluators can sign now without completing that step that should not have been required when it was rolled out. It should be noted, however, that if mid-year strategies were developed at mid-year, the employee should include progress towards those goals. If there were no mid-year strategies added, then obviously that is not necessary. The summary evaluation conference, we also had some folks who were unable to sign off on the summary evaluation, and that has been corrected and is now, evaluators should be able to finish that now. As a reminder, only principals and APs should complete summatives, and if there are performance concerns, the principal should complete them. Another reminder about minimum performance expectations. It should be noted that the minimum performance expectations apply to summative or end-of-year rate evaluation ratings for all teachers and all licensed support staff. Employees with 3 or fewer years of experience who have ratings that fall below the minimum expectations will be recommended for non-renewal. We do have district performance expectations in that chart for first-year employees. It is not okay to fall below the minimum expectations at the end of the first year. If someone falls below the minimum expectations, then we will move to recommend non-renewal for that employee. Third-year teachers with a career code of IL30 may be recommended for an SP2 license at the end of the year if they have proficient or higher ratings on their summatives. If there's a rating lower than proficient, the teacher will be non-renewed, and that is state policy. It is considered a licensure deficiency related to performance. And this is just a view of what those minimum performance expectations look like. Again, that document is posted on the Talent Management intranet site under Documents and Resources. We have noticed that we do have some teachers and licensed support staff who have begun to resign their positions. So we wanted to just note that if someone is currently tracking towards non-renewal, they've had performance concerns and supervisors have been in the process of documenting those performance concerns, and the staff member resigns prior to being notified that they are being recommended for non-renewal, please notify your HR team lead so that the reason for that resignation can be flagged appropriately in Lawson. Changes to locking activities. You have heard us talk about this for a couple of months now, but what you should know is that this will go into effect on Monday, March 30th. So locking a plan container, and this applies to teacher and licensed support staff with NESIS plans in My Talent. You no longer have to acknowledge or sign the step. It will be a one-step process where you click on Lock Activities. You'll get a pop-up box to ask if you're sure you're ready to lock. And if you have completed all the required activities in that container and you click Lock, then you will have a green check and a locked container. So what happens to containers that were locked prior to this change, again, that goes into effect on Monday? Action is needed on the part of the evaluator if there are required activities that were not completed in prior containers. Because if there were required activities not completed, those containers are not locked. If the containers are not locked, then evaluators will not be able to access the summary evaluation form or the PDP end-of-year review until the required number of observations in PDP review containers are locked. So what's going to happen on Monday is if there are required activities that were not completed, you will not be able to move forward in an evaluation until those required activities have been completed and the containers locked. So if you're unable to access a different observation, for example, or the next PDP container, it is because there were required activities in prior containers that were not completed and those containers were not properly locked. No further action is needed if all the required activities in a container were completed and the containers were properly locked. Now that supervisors are working on summary evaluation forms, we wanted to remind you that there is an observation scoring summary in My Talent that can be handy for looking at prior observations as you're working on those summatives. It is located in the record of evaluation activities. And if you open that observation scoring summary, this is a view of what you might see. So if you, in the column where the evaluator's name is, there's a check by that person's name. If all of those are checked, then you will see ratings, then the ratings are tallied for all of those observations in the view that you see. If you only want to see the ratings for one particular observation, then we would uncheck those checks for all of the observations that we don't want to see reflected in this tally observation. You can also click on the down arrow in the menu column and to see an option to click feedback. If you click on feedback, it gives you a view of the observation with all the ratings and all the comments included. So we just wanted you to know that this is an option for you. If an observation has not been shared with the employee, then it will not be included in the observation scoring summary. So if there is an observation missing, it is likely because the observation was not shared with the employee. As a reminder, psychologist observations are due. We encourage you to check the psychologist observation schedule if you're not sure when your school is scheduled to complete one. We did send emails yesterday to all principals who have a scheduled observation that has not been completed. It's really important that we get those done so that our district specialist, Cindy Shaw, can complete the summatives for every psychologist in the district. Every psychologist must have 3 completed observations in order to have a summative. Requirements for late hires. So we've already talked about this the last few webinars, but as a reminder, anyone that is hired after the cutoff dates listed here only are required to have a self-assessment, a pre-observation conference, and 2 formal observations. For anyone hired after March 1st, it is not necessary to complete any evaluation activities, but principals and supervisors will be asked to complete a recommendation form for those individuals to give us something to have on file about that person's performance so that we will know whether or not they are good candidates for future hire in permanent positions. Watch your HR updates for a link to that form. Upcoming evaluation deadlines is the completion of observations for school psychologists, if those could be done as quickly as possible. A couple of activities for principal and APs who might be at risk of non-renewal. Those end-of-year reviews and summary evaluations are due. The summatives for teachers or licensed support staff with 3 or fewer years of experience who are at risk of non-renewal. For traditional and middle college schools, those are due on April 16th, right after spring break, and then April 3rd for Project Lift CLC schools. You're also reminded that when the summative is completed, that you would also complete the Standard Professional 2 license recommendation for third-year teachers that goes to the BTSP coordinator, and I'm sure he'll be talking more about that. Let's see, and then summatives for employees who are performing satisfactorily are due April 30th for middle college schools and traditional calendar schools. For Project Lift schools, they are due on May the 6th. And then observation 2 for teachers on a career abbreviated evaluation plan for Project Lift schools are due April 30th, and for traditional calendar schools, May 7th. I don't believe we have any current training schedule, but if you find a need for training, please email your needs to talent management at CMS, and we will be happy to work with you to get that training scheduled. And if you need help with My Talent, there are always the online help guides which we update as soon as changes are made. If you have technical issues, please submit a Sharewell ticket. Support for the PDP or evaluation process can be emailed to Talent Management. If you have questions about professional learning, please email those to kate.mcnally. And then this is the contact information for the talent management team. Do we have any questions?
Yes. Can Dean of Students complete non-exempt evaluations since they are now in My Talent?
It is highly recommended that non-exempt evaluations be completed by principals or assistant principals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ellen. I know we are presenting a lot of material in this webinar, but I want to remind you that all presentation documents will be available on the HR webinars page of the CMS intranet. Next up, we have Amy Sullivan, who will provide information on candidate selection strategies and the Spring Career Fair.
Welcome to the Sourcing and Onboarding section of the HR webinar. My name is Amy Sullivan, and I'm a Talent Acquisition Manager with our team. Today I will share strategies for selecting the right candidate. Then I will tell you how to prepare for our upcoming career fair and open the floor to answer any questions you might have. Selecting the right candidate. As you interview applicants, you will need to consider multiple factors to determine if they are the right candidate. Consider these questions. Is the candidate right for the open position? Is the candidate right for my school or department? Is the candidate just right? Let's examine these questions in more detail. To determine if the candidate is right for your open position, there are a number of actions you may take. Start by conducting a needs assessment. Identify both the required and desired competencies based on the results of your needs assessment. Develop questions to assess candidates' proficiency for each identified skill. If time permits, incorporate a performance task, such as demonstrating a lesson or writing prompts to determine fit. You may refer to the Effective Hiring Toolkit for additional tips. To determine if the candidate is right for your school or department, you should consider the culture. Be open and share with the candidate the challenges and scenarios employees face within your school. Ask both situational and behavior-based questions to determine fit. These questions and other tools can also be found in the Effective Hiring Toolkit. And remember to check the candidate's references. Consider their references in your decision-making process. After you've determined the candidate is right for the position and right for your school or department, decide if the candidate is just right. Ensure that the candidate meets all your needs and requirements to be successful. If so, submit your recommendation through the My App system. Work with your HR team lead or staffing technician to close the deal and complete the hiring process to fill your vacancy. For the remaining time we have, I would like to discuss our upcoming career fair on Saturday, April 25th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Park Expo and Conference Center on Briar Creek Road. On Saturday, there will be an orientation at 8:30 a.m. for administrators, and we recommend that you arrive early as we expect at least 2,000 candidates to attend. I also want to let you know that we will have setup hours on Friday afternoon beginning at 2:30 p.m. and that setup will continue to 7 o'clock p.m. Please note that we do have some limited free parking available for CMS staff at the nearby Chantilly Montessori. Additional parking will be offered by the park at a discounted rate of $4 per automobile. At the fair, make sure you're selling your school by displaying school pride through your attire and table setup. If you have extra team members attending, have them walk around and network on your school's behalf throughout the event. Maximize your time with each candidate by conducting speed interviews. And close the deal by making hiring recommendations to the right candidates. Also remember that this is an opportunity to develop a pipeline of candidates for future vacancies that occur when least expected. For more information on how to select the right candidate or how to benefit from attending the upcoming career fair, you are welcome to contact any member of the sourcing and onboarding team. Our phone number is 980-343-1848, and our team members are listed on your screen. You may email us at recruiter@cms.k12.nc.us. Additionally, the Effective Hiring Toolkit is always available online at the link listed above. Any questions?
There are no questions at this time.
Thank you, Amy, for the updates. Next up, we will have Michelle John-Jumeau, who will provide information on the non-renewal process.
Good morning, everyone. I am an HR team lead. I'm assigned to the Northeast Learning Community, but I speak on behalf of all of the HR team leads for the different learning communities. This morning I'll be talking about the non-renewal process. My purpose is to review the submission of non-renewal documents for teachers and licensed support staff with school administrators, as well as the process that you should be following to conference with these teachers that are at risk for non-renewal on the summary rating form. I'll be talking a little bit here about required documentation. There's a series of, you'll see here listed here, a series of documents that we'll need to be reviewing in order to determine if each case, each employee's situation meets our requirements for non-renewal. We'll be looking at the principal summary narrative, and I'll be talking about that in a minute in more detail. We will also need to receive copies of the observations and with hopefully the areas of concern clearly identified. Of course, the summative or the summary evaluation rating form, and that should be completed hopefully by the principal. Record evaluation activities, PDP activities, the PDP end-of-year review, the PCL, and the evidence of checkpoint meetings. All statutory requirements must be met. On the next slide, I'd like to talk a little bit about additional documentation to be considered. We would encourage you to submit copies of walkthrough observations, as well as any teacher support logs that may have been completed by staff or coaches. We will also be looking at written documentation pertaining to performance. This could be written warnings, or sometimes another term we use is a summary of concern memo. Any other relevant communication that demonstrates support or feedback. I encourage you not to go overboard. We're not looking for extensive, elaborate amount of documentation. We won't need all of your emails to the employee. We don't need lesson plans with all of the notes on them that were given back to employees. I would encourage, if you had meetings with an employee followed up by an email, that those emails would be helpful. But please use your discretion and judgment when you determine what to include in the file. It's also helpful if there have been any parent or staff concerns or complaints that those also be included. Sometimes referrals, copies of referrals, or charts summarizing those referrals also support the non-renewal claim if there have been concerns about behavioral management skills. Submitting documentation. Certainly not new this year. Last year we asked all principals to submit their documentation for non-renewal electronically. This year we're doing it a little differently. A Google Drive folder was shared with each school who has teachers on performance counseling letters. If this isn't the case, I encourage you to reach out to the Talent Management Department. At the end of this presentation, there is an email address that you can use to contact them. Within those Google Drive folders, we ask that you create a folder for each staff member whose summative ratings remain below the minimum expectations. Documents from MyTalent should be saved as PDF files and uploaded to the folder. I've received questions from principals saying, well, my HR team lead has access to these files in MyTalent. Yes, that is true. However, the time that it takes us to review files is extensive, so we appreciate the assistance from principals to upload those into the folders for each employee. And it's not only the HR team lead that could be reviewing this information, but also other departments. We like to have it all collected in one location. The checkpoint meeting notes will be saved as a PDF as part of the PCL, so you will not need to address those notes separately to attach them to the folder. When saving documents to this Google folder, the files for individual teachers or licensed support staff should begin with the employee's name, last name, comma, first name format. More details about how to submit the non-renewal documentation are at this hyperlink that you see on this slide. You can also, they were also sent out by email to principals in the last week or two, and if you go to the intranet and enter this title of the document into the search field, that will also bring up the document. As I mentioned earlier, I want to talk a little bit more in detail about the principal summary document. This is a revised document. It replaces in previous years what we used was the narrative. There's a hyperlink on the slide to take you to the document itself. The principal summary document includes a portion of it that is the principal's recommendation, a documentation checklist, a section for the performance concerns, a checklist where you would note whether you were able to meet the statutory requirements, and an area where you can include and summarize the support provided. The form may initially look daunting. Our effort here was to try to simplify and provide principals with a fill-in-the-blank format. So we would certainly be open to feedback from you, but if you approach the form from that perspective, I think, and take some time to look through it, you'll find that it will simplify your job of summarizing the situation for these individual employees. I do want to also say that in terms of summarizing performance concerns, we would expect a brief summary or a compelling argument for a third party. What are the major concerns that you encountered with this employee? It does not have to be long, but if you were to meet someone and try and give a paragraph of summary to give the major concerns, that would be helpful. The next slide also will give you a view of a portion of that principal summary document. Again, just take some time. I think you'll find it to be easy if you take some time to be thoughtful and approach it, having your documentation close by. You'll find the address or the URL where you can find this form at the bottom of this slide. I'd like to talk again about the summary rating form and the conference that you will be having, or perhaps have already had, but we'll be having with teachers and licensed support staff whose ratings on their summary rating form are falling below the matrix. We suggest that you have a copy of the matrix available for the employee to view and provide the teacher or licensed support staff with a copy of one. You can then review the summative with the employee and then compare the matrix with their final ratings on the form. We encourage you to listen to the employee's response and provide feedback. We also encourage you, if the employee is worried about next steps and wants to find out what their options are, to refer them to your HR team lead for more clarification. On the next slide, we are providing sample talking points for this conference with staff members who are at risk of non-renewal. You'll find these here. The final bullet is of most importance to notify the employee that their contract is at risk of being non-renewed. It's important not to use the word license, as sometimes we use those interchangeably. In this case, please do not do that. The license is given by DPI and not by our district. The only control that we have is over the contract of our employees. So please specify contract. If your contract is you would tell the employee if your contract is non-renewed, your employment with CMS will end, and non-renewal would impact the employee's ability to be rehired by CMS. You'll find on this slide links and directions to get to different resources that would help you in the non-renewal process. And if there are any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer them at this time.
There are no questions at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. Again, a reminder that all presentation documents will be available on the HR webinars page of the CMS intranet. Next, Tony Smith will discuss beginning teacher support program and will provide an update from the licensure department.
I want to say good morning, and again, welcome to this webinar. I want to start this morning with the non-renewal licensure process. In March, the licensure department began sending out non-renewal emails to staff that were effected in reference to the non-renewal. This year, we would no longer consider good faith for employment contract considerations. Individuals who do not hold a license that expires after June 30, 2015 would be recommended for non-renewal of their employment. Impacted employees for the non-renewal process and should have received an email would be the licensure deficiency codes of D, E, F, O, and the O is on pretty much the third year beginning teachers, P, Q, T, U, W, or X. Those are the licensure deficiency codes that would have received a licensure email stating that they had a deficiency. All third year beginning teachers must satisfactorily complete the beginning teacher support program requirements and achieve a rating of proficient or higher to be recommended for the Standard Professional 2 license. They must receive that rating on the end of the year summative. For employees with career status that have a licensure deficiency, the district will have no choice but to move forward with the process of dismissal. If an individual is non-renewed or dismissed for licensure issues, the individual will be able to reapply in the future if they obtain their continuing license. Impacted employees are receiving licensure deficiency notices via email every 2 weeks. Also, the principal is receiving a copy of those emails as well. The letters will be distributed, and we started on March 11th. They went out the second time on March 25th. And another email will be going out on April 8th, April 22nd, and May 6th. I want to just add here that the third-year teachers with an O prefix will receive that email until their summative recommendation from the principal and the verification of impact of ability to impact student learning form is completed. Principals and supervisors, as I said before, is also receiving a copy of that email. If you have any questions, please call our licensure department or call your licensure case manager. The general line licensure number is 980-343-1908. Non-renewal notices will be delivered to affected employees by May 12th. For licensure updates, please visit the licensure page on the intranet. The state has made some policy changes regarding testing, especially with elementary education and exception to children licensure, which can impact hiring eligibilities. Contact your licensure case manager if you have questions. Moving on to the Beginning Teacher Support Program, we'd just like to remind you that we did change the requirements of mentors to receive a Flex Certificate. That change went into effect on January 1. All mentors who are assigned to work with beginning teachers will have the opportunity to receive the Flex Certificate one per semester. The certificates will be awarded based on evidence that the mentor has met all the eligibility requirements in support of the beginning teacher in my talent. The mentor's responsibilities: the mentor must complete all mentor training. They must sign the PDP at least 3 times, once in the beginning, mid-year, and the final review. They must meet regularly with the beginning teacher and complete the mentoring log. And also, as a mentor, the mentor is responsible for assisting the beginning teacher with completing all required trainings and professional development, orientation, or any assessments. The mentor, and I want to emphasize this last bullet here, the mentor will not observe their beginning teacher on a formal basis. Just to clarify that, the mentor will not and should not do the peer observation of his or her mentee. Also, principals, if you hire a lateral entry teacher, any new teacher who are hired, teachers who are hired as lateral entry must complete the 10-day required in-service for NCDPI prior to going into the classroom to teach. As of today, all of our beginning teachers should have had the following items completed at this point. They should have been assigned a mentor, and the mentor should have started documenting their meetings and the mentoring log, my talent. They should have completed the initial review along with the mid-year review on the PDP. Should have had the annual orientation, and that date should be logged in my talent. It should have been done by the principal and or assistant principal. Have proved that the North Carolina Teacher Evaluation Process training and the BTSP orientation has been completed. It should have been observed at least 3 times by an administrator, depending on their hire date. And they should have had the peer observation completed. And they should also have completed, as I said before, the mid-year review of the PDP with 3 signatures. We did pull the data report. We did pull the data report this week. We will be sending an email out to the mentor contact, letting you know how you stand in reference to the beginning teachers, in reference to whether they are in compliance or not in compliance. We also sent out an email on yesterday to the mentor contacts, letting them know about the professional development standings, whether or not all BTs have completed the North Carolina teacher evaluation process, and also the BTSP orientation. As I said, that spreadsheet will be going out sometime next week. We'd like to remind principals that if a teacher works 120 days during the academic school year, that the entire evaluation system process must be completed. And what we mean by that, if they are probationary teachers, they must have 3 observations. They must have the PDP with all 9 signatures, and they must also have a completed rating. They must have the summary rating form completed. And the cutoff dates for 120 days, as listed below, Druid Hills and Thomasboro will be January 30th, Middle College, February 4th, Bruns Avenue and Walter G. Byers, February 6th, in your traditional schools, February 23rd. I do want to add a footnote here that any third-year teacher who works at least 120 days, it is the responsibility of CMS to make sure that him or her have all the necessary items in place to be recommended for the standard professional 2. So if a person is resigning and they have worked 120 days, it is the responsibility of our district to make sure that that particular individual is recommended for or against the standard professional 2 license, and that's based on the summative and all the other requirements of BTSP. Converting to the standard professional from the standard professional 1 license to the standard professional 2, as Ellen said earlier, this is just more information about that. And principals, you're reminded that all third-year teachers must be rated proficient or higher on the summative in order to be recommended for the standard professional 2 license. Any third-year beginning teacher who has an O prefix should receive the principal's recommendation along with the verification of ability to impact student learning, or if that individual teacher has taken the North Carolina Praxis test, that would be used in lieu of the impact statement. Additional information will be coming out to principals. The memo is in the process of being approved, and once the memo is approved, that information will go out to principals via email with the necessary attached documents. The compliance spreadsheet, as I said, will be going out to the mentor contacts sometime next week. And all first, second, and third-year teachers should be in compliance with their professional development training. That those trainings are out there, they are online, and our goal is to be at 100%. No reason why we should not be at 100% with those 2 items being online. Our next component would be the mentor logs. Just want to say that there are 2 employees that should have access to the mentor logs, and that would be the mentor and the mentee. The mentoring logs are there for documentation of support that the mentor is working with the mentee. Only the mentor should be assigned in administrative rights to the teacher's mentoring logs on the My Staff tab. Any staff member serving as an evaluator is not eligible to be assigned as a mentor. Administrative rights to mentoring logs are being audited by our Human Resources Department, and those rights are being deleted if we are finding that they are out of compliance. If you have any questions about the mentoring logs, please contact Dr. Angela Belfield or myself. Just want to say that for resources, we are continuing, and we will be continuing to use the evaluation guide, timeline dates. Those dates are how we are determining what's due and when everything is due. That document is located, as Ellen said before, is on the intranet on the talent management. Again, I would like to refer you to the document, the Beginning Teacher Support Program Requirements and Responsibilities, located on the licensure tab, on the licensure page under the BTSP tab. If you use that document, your school would definitely be into compliance with the state and Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Our office will continue to monitor the schools to make sure that all BTs are in compliance, and we will continue to communicate with you All requirements for compliance are listed on the intranet. And as I said, the evaluation timeline, that's what drives our dates and when things are due. In order to, if you need to contact your licensure case manager or myself, the licensure department contact information is on the screen now. And I'd like to conclude at this time by asking if there are any questions.
There are no questions at this time.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for participating in our webinar. As a reminder, here are some important dates to remember. There are several evaluation deadlines and BTSP deadlines coming up. All of these dates can be found on the talent management page of the CMS intranet in the documents section. Sourcing and onboarding will be hosting the Spring Career Fair on Saturday, April 25th. Resuming in May, we will offer HR webinars on the first Friday and the following Monday of each month. Supporting documents for this and all future webinars can be found on the HR webinars page of the CMS intranet. Finally, please let us know about any future topics you would like us to discuss. You will get a follow-up survey, and we encourage you to provide webinar topics there. Right now, we will stay on the webinar for a few minutes to answer any additional questions you may have. That concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for joining us.